Svana took up the scroll and wound the wooden spools to read. Environment, nurture, stress, physical growth. Stress is the application of challenge and can be applied individually and collectively. Challenge comes about as a result of competing influential elements within an environment. These elements can be entities that are part of the environment itself, such as climatic conditions, or other organisms within the environment, which compete for resources within the environment. In the innate subjective experience, the experience of stress is innate, enmeshed with the survival instinct. This innate stress pertains to anything that the organism, through its inherent traits as represented in the structure of its physical and behavioral manifestation, knows to be wary of. This is survival stress, the manifested physical and emotive response to a recognized proximity of a potential for harm. Survival stress for the innate subjective entity is the greatest stress. In addition to survival stresses are lesser stresses. These are the stresses that come from influential forces that increase the potential for harm, but not to the point of a risk of survival. They may include a particularly cold winter or a temporarily diminished supply of food. They may mean that the organism will not die, but may need to work harder or travel further in order to live. Lesser stresses also include stresses that are not at all life-threatening, but inevitably require the strengthening of the entity, which then makes the entity stronger in the context of confronting greater stresses. Stresses of this order might include the stress the body absorbs when covering rough or steep terrain, or by climbing trees, or by moving fast. In the development of mobility and agility, the animal may not only find food, it may also better escape predators and be more resilient to changing environmental conditions. Stress applies not only to animals, it also applies to plants. It is a mechanism that recognizes potential for threat. In recognizing a potential threat, the organism may respond by adapting to counter the risk through the development of resilience. At the level of manifested life as a whole, resilience to threat is achieved through biodiversity. The evolution of life to exist in as many different environments as possible increases the probability of some form of life surviving any given planetary threat. At the level of a given species, resilience may be achieved through the development of a specific trait, such as thicker fur in Arctic animals, or blubber in warm-blooded sea creatures, or through the development of opposable thumbs in humans. At the level of the individual, resilience may be achieved through physical fitness by which to better navigate the physical environment without injury. Stress is inherent in a constantly changing, closed and competitive environment. The better that ambient stress is managed, the more able the organism is to compete. At the innate subjective level, this stress management is automatic. It is embodied in physical characteristics as well as in behavioral patterns, such as play, that mimic the conditions of conflict, whether that be through chasing or through fighting. With the development of the rational faculty, the individual human has the ability to employ controlled stresses in order to instigate adaptation towards increased resilience. In the physical context, this involves the strengthening of the body through controlled stress. Controlled stress of the body means exercising the muscles of the body to trigger them to develop in strength and capability. This controlled stress can be employed to increase strength to the extent required to better manage ordinary daily tasks. It might further be employed to heighten the capability of the body to effectively navigate situations that the person might potentially experience. In the former case, the resilience of the person is intact so long as environmental factors remain consistent. In the latter case, the resilience of the person remains intact also in an array of less likely but possible scenarios. The purpose of strengthening through controlled stress is to account for the unknown and unexpected. It is to evaluate the import of potential scenarios and prepare for them where to not do so would result in a situation that is both unwanted and avoidable. The principle behind the implementation of controlled stress is not just precautionary. By developing ability, the body develops awareness through the memory embodied in the structure of bone and muscle, and through that memory, the agility that comes with the experience of use. These characteristics of awareness, preparedness, and agility are instituted into the person's emotive structure. The resulting state of increased mobility allows for a greater ability to collect positively substantial experience. As a vehicle for the interactive intent of the mind, the body's main purpose is to bring the mind into touch with enriching experience by which it may develop itself. The ideal controlled stressing of the body takes into account two factors. The first is the environment, including the risk factors inherent in the environment and the requirements the environment imposes in the context of provision. The second is the capacity of the vehicle itself, what the actual body is capable of when managed perfectly. The individual's response to environmental requirements either allow or disallow the second factor regarding the potential capability of the individual. Where individuals attend only to the base level requirements of the environment as a matter of provisioning, they fail to see their presumption of environmental consistency. The more rigorously the attention of the individual is limited to prevent consideration, the more this presumption is able to take hold. This failure to attend to the complexities inherent in the environment over time results in such individuals collectively losing attendant awareness of their environment, which will result in costs when the difference is realized. Where individuals are aware of risk factors but do not attend to achieving resilience against their potential through the implementation of controlled stress, they have not internalized the import of the risk factor. The individual recognizes that environments shift over time, but weight that present experience sufficiently highly to counteract the full realized appreciation of innate remaining potential. The result is the same. The costs accrue when the difference is realized. Where individuals meet the base level requirements to allow provisioning within the environment and further address with rational consideration likely potential threats and respond with the actualized development of resilience, those individuals have internalized the import of inherent risk factors and have increased their capability in the process. Where individuals achieve increased resilience, they may consider that through that increased resilience, not only is more protected against, but more is possible in terms of interactive experience, and that with that interaction, it is possible for increased levels of positively substantial import to be experienced. That realization allows the second of the two factors, the consideration of the potential of the physical and the maximization of the embodiment of that potential as a means of shifting threat arrays through holistic individual growth. For the mind of the individual to develop its utmost strength, its utmost resilience, it must first impose those rigors upon its own manifestation. Imposing those rigors requires understanding the function of the body both as a whole and as regards to attendant parts in the context of the environment. It means exercising each of those parts in combination with the others towards functional strength. Functional strength is the meeting of the practice with the purpose. The body has innate characteristics that allowed its species to survive. In the case of humans, those characteristics include the potential ability to run great distances through the combination of the design of the bipedal body and the ability to cool through perspiration. It includes the ability to climb and to grasp and manipulate material in the environment using the hands. And it includes the brain, which effectively compensates for the lack of relative speed and strength and the lack of inbuilt weapons through the tactical and potentially strategic direction of the body. While environmental conditions change over time, the means of overcoming those conditions effectively remain consistent. The means consist of maximizing the capability of the body towards strength and agility. They consist of maintaining that strength and agility, even outside of the defensive context, so that they may be employed in the pursuit of increased positive substantial experience that feeds the emotive and intellectual experience of the mind.